It's nice to virtually meet you all. This is your first learning episode of our subject, Introduction to Philosophy of the Human Person. I'm Ma'am Emeline M. Magdadaro from the Tagaytay City National High School. Our discussion for today is focused on MELC 1.1, Distinguish a Holistic Approach from a Partial Point of View. So at the end of our lesson, you are expected to, number 1, distinguish holistic from a partial point of view. Number 2, make a philosophical reflection on a concrete situation from a holistic perspective. So first things first, let us all define the word philosophy. As we all know, the word philosophy comes from the Greek words philia, means love, and the other one is Sophia, means wisdom. So it means philosophy is the love of wisdom. Now, this man, Pythagoras, was once said to be the first man to call himself a philosopher. But before that time, the wise men had actually called themselves sage, which means interpreted to mean those who know. So people who actually are called sage means those who know. But Pythagoras was more modest. He actually coined the word philosopher to the one who is attempting to find out. So there is a difference between the sage and the philosopher. And according to Pythagoras also, people, like men and women of this world, could be classified into 3. So he introduced 3 classifications. The first classification of people are those that love pleasure. The second one, those that love activity. And the third one, those that love wisdom. How do we define philosophy? Philosophy is the study of general and fundamental problems, such as those connected with existence, knowledge, values, reason, mind, and language. So these words, your existence, the knowledge around you, the values, the reason, mind, and language are coined with the term philosophy. And another one, philosophy is also a rational attempt to formulate, to understand, and answer fundamental questions. So anything that actually make you ask about something, the existence of something, so you are actually in the process of making a philosophy. So you have to formulate, to understand, and answer it afterwards. So what is the nature of philosophy? The first one, when we say philosophy, it refers to the set of views, beliefs about life and the universe, which are often held uncritically. So we refer to this meaning as an informal sense of philosophy or having a philosophy. Usually, when a person says my philosophy is, he or she is referring to an informal personal attitude to whatever topic is being discussed. So the first one that we should remember about the nature of philosophy, set of views or beliefs. In whatever you believe, whatever your view on something. So that means you are actually in the start of doing a philosophy. Second, philosophy is also a process of reflecting on and criticizing our most deeply held conceptions and beliefs. So once we start to reflect and criticize on our beliefs, on the concepts, or maybe the concepts that we start to believe in, that's also the time that you are starting to make your own philosophy. So these two senses of philosophy, the having and doing, so you have this what we call concepts and beliefs within you, and what you're gonna do is actually to process and to start reflecting and criticizing them, whether these are good or these are bad. So they cannot be treated entirely independent of each other. For if we did not have a philosophy in the formal or personal sense, then we could not do a philosophy in the critical reflective sense. Yeah, that's right. If you don't have something that you believed in or some concepts in your mind, you cannot start to reflect and you cannot start to criticize on. Now, having a philosophy, however, is not sufficient for doing philosophy. So a genuine philosophical attitude is searching and critical. Okay, always searching for truth, always searching for an answer. Another, it is open-minded and tolerant. It means you're willing to look at the sides of an issue without prejudice. So you have to accept the concepts and the beliefs with open mind. So to philosophize is not merely to read and know about philosophy. It doesn't end there. There are skills of argumentation to be mastered, techniques of analysis to be employed, and a body of material to be appropriated such that we become able to think philosophically. So when you start to think philosophically, when you start to philosophize, it means you have to know the different skills of argumentation and some techniques of analysis. And most of all, you have to start internalizing these concepts and beliefs around you. The third nature of philosophy. It is a rational attempt to look at the world as a whole. An approach of actually looking at the world as a whole rationally. So philosophy seeks to combine the conclusions of the various sciences and a human experience into some kind of consistent worldview. So you don't need to be biased only on about science, or maybe you're gonna focus only on your experience, human experience, but you have to combine them together and make a conclusion out of it. So that is a rational attempt to look at the world as a whole. So philosophers wish to see life not with a specialized lens of the scientist or a business person or the artist, but with the overall view of someone cognizant of life as a totality. So there is no bias. The fourth one is another nature of philosophy. Philosophy is a logical analysis of language and the clarification of the meaning of words and concepts. So certainly this is one function of philosophy. One of the function of philosophy is actually to give a logical analysis or clarification of the meaning of words or concept logically. Okay, logically, the keyword there is logical analysis. So when you have to use the methods of analysis and you have to seek to clarify the meaning of the terms and the use of languages. So some philosophers see this as a main task of philosophy. And a few claim this is the only legitimate function of philosophy. To others, to some philosophers, they actually based on philosophizing by using logical analysis onto the concepts or the words as a whole. But to others, this is just one of the nature of philosophy or the task of philosophy, or when you start philosophizing. So you have to consider the logical analysis. The fifth one is a group of perennial problems. So philosophy is a group of perennial problems that interest people and for which philosophers always have sought answers. So they actually treat philosophy as a group of perennial problems that actually interest different types of people. So that's the start, that when you start to actually consider these problems around you, you may start to actually process inquiry, the deepest problem, okay, that will actually relate to the human experience. Some of the philosophical questions raised in the past have been answered in a manner satisfactorily to the majority of philosophers. So many questions, however, have been answered only tentatively, and many problems remain unsolved. So this is actually one of the functions of some philosophers, that they have to dig deeper on these problems that relate to human existence, problems that are unsolved. So like, for example, the question like, what is truth? Can somebody really tell what is this truth all about? What is the distinction between right and wrong? What is life and why I'm here? Why is there anything at all? To some people, these are still unresolved to them, and they still continue to make some solutions or some answers, seek some answers to these questions. So, what is the importance, or what are these importance of philosophy? Okay, so we have here 7, and let's just summarize them. Let's pick the keywords. First one, the study of philosophy enables. The study of philosophy enables us to think carefully and clearly about important issues. Okay? Think clearly and carefully about issues. That's number 1. Number 2, in studying philosophy, we also learn to take a step back from our everyday thinking and explore the deeper, bigger questions which underpins our thought. So we don't only consider those simple questions around us, but we have to dig deeper to these questions that actually keep on ringing in our minds every day. Okay, dig deeper to them and seek for the answers. Third, the focus in the study of philosophy is to learn not what to believe, but how to think. So when you believe on something, when you believe in something, it doesn't end there. You have to think critically. Why do you think you believe in this matter, or in this issue, or in this concept, or in this belief? Next, studying philosophy sharpens your analytical abilities, enabling you to identify and evaluate the strengths and weakness in any position. So it means it sharpens your analytical abilities, because you make logical analysis on something, and that's the time you also learn to evaluate your strengths. What are your strengths and what are your weaknesses as a person? Next, number 5, it hones your ability to construct and articulate cogent arguments of your own. Because when you start to philosophize, you start to make arguments. You have to prove why you believe in this thing or in this concept, and you have to convince also the people around you, why you have this belief. So you start to construct and articulate. So when you start philosophizing, at first it's difficult, but when you get through it, or when you get to use to it, it's easier for you to do it. Number 6, it prompts you to work across disciplinary boundaries and to think flexibly. Okay. Number 6, it prompts you to work across disciplinary boundaries and to think flexibly and creatively about problems which do not present immediate solution. Okay. And the last one, because philosophy is an activity as much as body of knowledge, it also develops your ability to think and work independently. Yeah, so I want you to choose only the keywords that I have presented today, so that you will remember the different importance of philosophy. Now, in our lesson, we also deal with the difference between holistic and partial approach in doing philosophy. So let us first differentiate these two terms, holistic and partial. So when we say holistic point of view, you looked at the aspect of a given problem or a situation, okay, as a whole. That's why we call it holistic. And then all aspects are given importance when making conclusions. So all the aspects of the problem or the concept, you consider them before you make conclusion. And the third one, all aspects are tied in together to form a general overview of the problem or the situation. So in holistic point of view, you actually consider all the details of the concepts, the problems, or that belief or an issue before you make conclusion. So for example, a teacher listens first to both stories of her two arguing students before making any conclusion about the issue. So that is the way to deal with the problem. You have to listen first with both sides before you make conclusion. So that is one application of holistic point of view. While in partial point of view, we looked at only limited number of aspects. Okay, we try to be selective on the concepts or the issues, or other side of the issue only. And then conclusions are made based on considering some but not all sides of the problems or situation. So normally we do this especially when we try to make abrupt solution to the problem, or we make abrupt decision on something. So we try to consider only the partial point of view. So we don't consider all the aspects of that issue or problem that we are dealing with. So for example, a teacher scolds a student A after student B accused him of stealing her pencil case. So in this case, the teacher is only hearing the side of student B. So when someone accused, okay, a student accused, student B accused one student, so teacher believed in that student right there and then scold the student who was actually accused. So to some people, in some of our experiences, we try to do this, okay, because maybe we don't have time to investigate, we don't have the time to consider all the details of that problem. Then we try to make abrupt solution or abrupt let's say decision to that problem. So however, the teacher only listened to the story of student B and not the student A before deciding to scold the student. So the decision there was to scold or not to scold. But he scolded, or she scolded, the teacher scolded the student already because he's making only a partial point of view on something. So learning philosophy requires learning to look into available perspective and work on the relationship to come up with sound, logical, and valid conclusions. So it's just like when you do a research, right? So when you do a research, you have to first gather all the necessary references, okay, before you make a conclusion or before you come up with a final study. So yeah, when you have these required references, number of references, that's the time that your work, your study will be validated. So it's the same when we learn philosophy. Okay, for us to work on or come up with logical, sound, and valid conclusion, you have to apply holistic points of view. So, our required outputs for this week, days 1 to 4, you have to accomplish the diagnostic test, and this will be submitted to our FB group page. Or if you're not comfortable there, you can actually PM me in my Facebook Messenger. Then you have to do also the pre-test in page 4, okay, 1 to 10, and the activity 1, page 5. So in activity 1, page 5, I wrote here the directions. There are 4 icons given below, the basic elements, the earth, the water, the wind, and the fire. So below each icon, you have to write many persons or things, foods, places, events as you can. Make sure you think it is related to these given icons. So the icons there are, okay, here are the icons. We have the earth, the water, the wind, and the fire. So I've given there already some of the examples. And you have to add maybe at least 5 for each column. Then after doing the activity for number 3, you have to start answering all the reflective questions that are included in this activity. For the next activity, activity 2, page 6, not page 6. Activity 2, research on the principles of holistic medicine. Is holistic medicine in keeping with philosophers' holistic perspective? Write your answer in a paper in not less than 500 words. So as we have discussed, the clarifications and descriptions or maybe characteristics of holistic approach. Now I want you to research on this holistic medicine. Make an essay, not less than 500 words, and tell me, okay, critique this type of essay in holistic medicine and tell me whether it's doing the holistic approach or not. Okay, so you know already what is holistic. It actually looked on the different aspects of the concerned problem or issue. So the issue there is about the medicine. So are they doing the holistic approach of it, or they're just looking on to the partial aspects of the given problem? So write your answer in the paper, not less than 500 words. And last one is your post-test, page 7, 10 items. And may I remind you, class, that everything should be written in the yellow paper. Okay. So these are the references that I actually use in my discussion today. So have a nice day, everyone. I'll see you all in our next learning video. Bye!